Good evening to one and all. Before starting the session, I would like to introduce our team Panchajanya. The divine conch of Bhagavan Sri Krishna, which was blown during the Kurukshetra, indicating the start of the Dharma Yuddha that followed. There, all the efforts were done for the establishment of Dharma. Dharma was kept over personal relations and motives. Keeping the same motive in our organization will work towards establishing the importance and necessity of following and imbibing Bharatiya culture, accepting our roots, and making people realize the true essence of Ayurveda, not only as treatment modality but also as a way of life. All these while walking in the path of Dharma. Hence, the motto Shreyam Bharatiyam Arogyam Ayurvediyam. With this aim in mind, I would like to welcome you all to Pragnavaridhi lecture series conducted for second year students. Today we have with us Vaidya Pratibha P. Kulkarni ma'am. Ma'am is an Ayurvedic doctor with 17 years of clinical experience and 14 years of teaching experience. Ma'am has perceived BAMS and MD Dravyaguna from the esteemed Government Ayurvedic Medical College, Bengaluru. Ma'am has also secured first rank in PGT 2008. Ma'am is currently working as a professor in the Department of Dravyaguna at a prestigious Ayurvedic institution. Ma'am is also teaching research methodology for postgraduate scholars and guiding students in developing a scientific approach to Ayurveda. Ma'am is successfully running a Panchakarma clinic at BSK third stage, integrating classical Ayurvedic principles into practice. Ma'am's passion is adopting and preaching the basic principles of Ayurveda and utility of medicinal herbs for conservation of health of society. Ma'am will be dealing with exam-oriented guidance Dravyaguna Paper 1, focusing on key topics, question patterns, and effective answering strategies, and aimed at helping students approach the exam with confidence and clarity. We warmly welcome you to the section, ma'am. Handing over the session to you, ma'am.
Namaste, one and all. Myself, Dr. Pratibha Kulkarni. Thank you, Manasa, for the nice introduction. So, I'm very happy to be here today addressing all of you regarding exam oriented study of Dravyaguna. First of all, bowing down to the lotus feet of Lord Dhanvantari, remembering all my gurus and all those who have helped me to reach out to this stage. I would like to address you all regarding Dravyaguna exams, how confidently you can face. As the introduction was given regarding Panchajanya, very happy to hear about the religious and also the righteous Panchajanya sound that was heard before the Dharma Yuddha. So let this session be a sort of invigorating thing in all of you so that you can confidently attend the exam, right? So let us start. So, namaste to one and all once again. Let me consider this as an evening and proceed with my presentation. So, good evening, everyone, once again. So, dear students, as we all know that this March will be the first exam, NCISM exam for the new syllabus. So our 21-22 batch students will be writing the second year exam, right? So regarding that, let us have a brief outlook. Regarding the subject Dravyaguna, what is the necessity of studying Dravyaguna? So, as you have rightly known the fact, Nighantuna vina vaidyo vidwan vyakaranena vina anabhyasena dhanushko trayo hasyasya bhajanam. So, what does this mean? A Vaidya who doesn't have the knowledge of Nighantus, the lexicons, the legendary lexicons, Vidwan Vyakaranena Vina, that is, a Vyakarana Shastra or a Pandita who doesn't have the sound knowledge of grammar. Anabhyasena Dhanushko, a warrior, especially a Dhanurdhari, who is not into practice, or Shastram Cha Vina Yodha, a Yodha, a warrior who doesn't have the Shastras. So all these three types of people are fit to be laughed at. Trayo hasyasya bhajanam. So this single verse is enough to say how important the knowledge of Dravyaguna is for a practitioner as well as a student. So, keeping this in mind, so let us try to understand what is Dravya. So, as we all know, Dravya is considered as one among the Chikitsa Chatushpadas. Soon after Bhishak, it is Dravya that is given maximum importance. And as we all know, it is only through Dravya that we can reach the patients, right? So, we are not so much well versed in mantra vidya or any other form of medical practice with which we can reach out to give some relief to the patients. So, knowledge about Dravya is extremely important. So, please consider that this second year is a great opportunity for all of you to know about the Dravya, because during this year you have two very important subjects, that is Dravyaguna and Rasa Shastra, which give you immense knowledge about all the Dravyas, right? So Dravya becomes the sadhana for you to give the treatment. So it is the best tool with which you can succeed. So knowledge of Dravya is extremely important. So considering this, let us just move on to this exam thing, right? So, Dravyaguna, as you all know, study of drugs. So, when talking about Dravyaguna specifically, myself being a teacher in this subject for so many years, I often find students struggling with this subject. So, what are all the challenges? If we just try to list out what are all the challenges that the students would face while studying Dravyaguna, see these. One is conceptual complexity. That means the concepts, the siddhantas that you learn in this particular field, in this particular subject, is quite different. So it's a unique thing, right? So, especially the concept of prabhava, samana vichitra pratyarabdhatva, interrelation between rasa, guna, virya, vipaka, prabhava, and especially pharmacology, which is like a nightmare for all our students. And in the same confusions, we have so many words having similar meaning. Like, for example, Bhedana, Bhedaniyagana, Rasa, which is taken as different meanings, taken in different meanings in different contexts. And the concept of Virya, Virya Bheda, all these. So it leads to a lot of confusion in the minds of the students. Second is memorization struggle. There are so many definitions, especially you need to remember everything in terms of Sanskrit, right? So many shlokas are there, especially rasapanchakas, karmas, ganas, too many drug names. Example for various karmas, abhava pratinidhi dravyas, mishraka gana. Finally, we land up in lot of confusion. Abbreviations, yes, definitely. We have so many newer things that are introduced in paper one: NMPB, GCP, GFCP, IUCN, RET, GCTM. So many new terminologies, so many new abbreviations. Then modern concepts, of course, it is a, as I said, it's a nightmare and it's always a sort of struggle for the students. Pharmacology, actions, classification, examples. And the next is, for all these, we need to do a lot of brain gym, right? So, what is this brain gym? Let us try to know more. And third challenge is overlapping and multiple classifications like Virya Bheda. Whenever we ask regarding Viryavadas, students tend to talk about Vipaka. You ask about Vipaka, students tend to talk about Virya. Dravya Vargikarana. Oh, again, it appears to be very simple, but at the end, we mess up and mix up everything. When asked regarding Prayoga Bhedena Vargikarana, students talk about Prabhava Bhedena. When we ask about, that is what, Utpatti Bhedena, they talk about something else, right? Then, application in clinical practice. Considering all these confusions and overcoming all the difficulties, finally, what comes to our mind is commonly asked question, are we going to recite these Ganas shloka or Karma shloka in front of the patient? So there seems to be a gap between shlokas and its application. So that is what has to be overcome, and that can be overcome only if we have the deep knowledge of shlokas, the classical references, and try to adapt it into real clinical practice. And apart from understanding the subject, look at this answer writing challenge. This is extreme. Sometimes we often see that students know everything. They recite so many shlokas. They're so good in understanding the concept. But how that is measured? It is assessed only through examination. So that is why in the new syllabus, you have so many assessments, formative, summative, all the PAs, the term tests, and finally the preparatory, and getting ready to face the final exam. Even at that stage, a very intellectual student with a very high IQ sometimes fails to score very high marks because they don't know the method of writing answers. So there is lack of structured approach to long and short answers, missing essential points. They write so many things, they tend to miss the key terminologies, the keywords, and explanations. There is a lot of difficulty in managing time during exams because they sometimes it so happens that when you read too much, you want to write everything on the paper. So you tend to take longer time for certain questions, land up with lack of time for later questions. That also happens with many students. We always see that. Then, apart from this, from the student end, we see lack of revision and practice. See, it is always true that how much ever time you give to a particular thing, that much of importance you get from that. So I would say embrace the subject with love so that the subject embraces you back with lot of knowledge, isn't it? So the difficulty or the negative thing that I've seen from students is not practicing previous year's question papers, forgetting key topics due to irregular revision, struggling with MCQs and objective questions due to poor conceptual clarity. So you need to be very strong in concepts. Only then you will be able to mark the MCQs well. So we often think that MCQs, oh, it's quite easy because aram se, the ABCD, one among these will be the answer. And sometimes students take a chance. So that is where they lag behind. So even that has to be overcome, right? So these are some of the challenges, and let us just discuss about how to overcome these challenges. First thing, as I always say to my students, mnemonics and flowcharts for memorization. See, with due respect to acharyas who have framed our entire science, with due respect to them, you please try to adopt maximum easiest method to understand or recall the subject through your own formulas. That is the need of the hour. That will happen only if you spend time with the subject. You must face the problem and you yourself must come up with solutions, because whatever solutions sometimes we give, you may not be able to accept, right? So you need to spend time with the subject, give your quality time so that you will be able to devise some simple techniques which is feasible, I mean, with which you can remember. So regular revisions and quizzes to strengthen recall. According to the new syllabus, we have lots of quizzes and many other activities so that you become stronger in the concepts. Then case based discussions. See, all the concepts are finally, it gives fruit only if it is applied in clinicals, right? So basically everything that you study, you need to apply it practically. Answer writing practice to improve exam performance. So go on writing, you have lot of time, right? So let's start with the subject. As you all know, so this will be the last part of the slide. From now on, I will be presenting orally. If you want, please note down the important key terminologies and many points, right? So talking about the subject, you have so many chapters, around 22 chapters, among which the core, chapters we will discuss today, right? First thing, introduction to Dravyaguna Shastra. So this is a topic wherein you can get not 5 marks or 10 marks question, only one MCQ. But remember, knowledge has no boundaries. It is important for you to learn each and everything. Who is stopping you to learn? Nobody. But there is a systematic approach that we need to follow for conducting exams and making papers, right? So according to the new NCSM syllabus corrections, we have received that only one MCQ will be coming from this chapter. But to answer that MCQ confidently, definitely you need to read the entire chapter carefully. And it's quite an easy thing. It is said that basically it is just an introduction to Dravyaguna Shastra, right? Lakshana of Dravyaguna Shastra, yatascha ayushyani, anayushyani cha dravyani, Veda Yatyopi Ayurveda, right? So this is a reference from Charaka Sutra, 30th chapter, wherein the subject Dravya Guna, here Dravya is the substance, and Guna does not refer only to the Gurvadi Gunas or Paradi Gunas or whatever different other Gunas. Here, Guna refers to Rasa, Virya, Vipaka, Prabhava, Karma, and Guna also, right? So that has to be considered. Gunashabdena cheha dharmavachina rasavirya vipaka prabhavaha sarva eva grihyante. Then, apart from this, one very important thing that you must learn is the reference from P.V. Sharmaji, Dravyaguna Vijnana textbook. So this is a mandatory. The first thing that you must learn, Dravyanam Gunakarmani Prayogaha Vividhastata. Sarvasho Yatra Varnyante Shastram Dravyagunam Hitat. So the most important definition of Dravyaguna, P.V. Sharma ji was the first person to give definition like this regarding Dravyaguna. Please remember this, and there might be MCQs from this chapter like, according to Bhava Mishra, what are the Pancha Padarthas? Okay, so what are the 5 Padarthas of Dravyaguna? According to Bhava Mishra, Dravya, Guna, Virya, Vipaka, Prabhava. So these are the 5 Padarthas. So any among these can be given, and one apart from this chapter, like for example, Abhava, they would give, or anything else, Pratyaksha, they may include and ask as MCQ. Then, second important question that might come from this is Sapta Padarthas of Dravyaguna. According to Yadavji Trikamji Acharya, the Sapta Padarthas are Dravya, Rasa, Guna, Virya, Vipaka, Prabhava, right? So, Karma. So, these are considered as Sapta Padarthas of Dravyaguna according to YT Acharya or Yadavji Trikamji Acharya. Again, here to confuse you, they might ask something else in between. Like they may include Manas, Atma, which is to be striked off. Okay. The question may be like, which among these is considered as one among the Sapta Padarthas or not considered as one among the Sapta Padarthas of Dravyaguna? So, one out of the group might be Atma or Manas or Pratyaksha, Abhava, whatever. And apart from this, in this chapter, you just find definitions of all the Saptapadarthas, which you have already studied and which you will be coming across in further chapters, right? And then at the last, you find Hetu Linga Ushada Jnana, Swastatura Parayanam. So, Bishop, this has already been explained. So Dravyaguna is very essential for academicians, clinicians, researchers, students, pharmacy persons, medicinal plant cultivators, and also policymakers. So this ends the present chapter. You may also get like one among these is Karya Dravyas. Options, Shatavari, Arjuna, both B, A and B, or none. So the answer would be C, that is both A and B. To confuse you or to test your ability of understanding of Karana Dravyas or Karya Dravyas, such a question may be asked. So this is the first chapter and you may get only one MCQ from this. But you will have to go through this in detail. And the second chapter is Dravya Vijnana. So Dravya Vijnana basically about the concept of Dravya. So from this chapter, you may expect one MCQ and 2 5 marks questions. You won't have any 10 marks question from this chapter. It is only two 5 marks questions. So again, here it can be very tricky. Like for example, what is dravya? That is, or define dravya and write about panchabhautikatva or aushadhatva of dravya. So two things may be combined here. So basically, apart from everything, you need to understand or revise the terminologies. Yatrashitaha karmagunaha karanam samavayi yat tat dravyam. That terminology samavayi is extremely important, right? Kriya gunavat samavayi karanam dravyam, that also, which is according to Sushruta in a similar manner. And then Vaisheshika Darshana defines dravya as that which is having samavaya sambandha with guna and karma. And very importantly, at this point you should remember the chota chota definitions of rasa vaisheshika kara, that is Badanta Nagarjuna. See, Badanta Nagarjuna has given definitions for all the padarthas in a very short form. Like for example, Dravyam Ashraya Lakshanam Panchanam. Okay, so Panchashraya, Dravyam Ashraya Lakshanam Panchanam. For Guna, he gives Vishva Lakshanaha Gunaha. For Vipaka, he gives what you just try to recall. Okay, Kriya Lakshana is karma, Vipaka Lakshana is, I mean, Vipaka is dash Lakshana. You please try to recall and tell me. Then द्रव्ये रसो गुणो वीर्यं विपाकः शक्तिरेव च पदार्थाः पञ्चतिष्ठन्ति स्वस्वं कुर्वन्ति कर्म च. So this is another very important thing. So when asked about panchabhautikatva of dravyas, first thing is there should be, as I told you, this can be a question for 5 marks. So for 5 marks question, it is called as short answer question for 5 marks. So again, there will be subdivision of marks. So when asked about panchabhautikatva of dravyas, students tend to forget writing about definition of dravya, which is very important. For every question, there needs to be a good introduction, conclusion, and in between the body, right? So to start with this, you should write Yatrashitaha karmagunaha karanam samavayi yat tat dravyam. That is one introductory part. So dravya is the ashraya of these entities that has to be written. And also sarvam dravyam panchabhautikam asmin arthe. So sarvam dravyam panchabhautikam means, is it referring to all sorts of dravya or specifically karya dravyas? We need to understand. Then pradhanyata of maha, yes. So regarding this, I think it is quite clear, because panchabhutatmake dehe aharah panchabhautikah vipakvah panchada samyak gunan swan vivardhayet. So that has to be written. And bhutebhyo hi paramyasmat nasti chinta chikitsite. See, writing shlokas is an integral part of answering any Ayurvedic exam question paper, right? So in your answer paper, compulsorily there needs to be proper number of shlokas. For example, for a 5 marks question, minimum of 3 shlokas and 2 tikas. We all had 2 marks questions also, wherein 2 shlokas and 1 tika was expected. For a 5 marks question, 3 shlokas and 2 tikas, or at least 5 references with proper explanation. Please see to it that you do not elaborate too much the English part. Stick to, I mean, before starting to answer a question, you just design the answer in your mind. But apart from that, I would say that as soon as you receive the paper, read the entire paper fully, so that in your subconscious mind, always the mind is framing, designing answers. One part is writing or cooperating you or assisting you to write the answer, and the sukshma part is actually framing or designing for remaining answers. So it will for a short period delete all the unwanted things. So I would say read the question paper fully initially as soon as you receive. That is one prime important thing. Then coming back to this panchabhutatmake dehe, that reference has to be written. And bhute byohi paramyasmat nasti chinta, so that also has to be written. So what are all the 5 important mahabhutas? Mahabhutani kham vayu ragnirapah kshitisthata shabdas, so that also has to be written. And a very proper explanation needs to be written. See this what is this Panchabhautikatva of Dravya itself may be asked for 5 marks, or it may also be combined with define Dravya, write about Panchabhautikatva or Aushadhatva of Dravyas. So, when asked about Aushadhatva as a part of Panchabhautikatva or as a specifically another 5 marks question, what all you need to write? Anenopadeshana, Nanaushadibhutam Jagati Kinchid Dravyam Upalabhyate. So, that has to be written. And apart from that, Bishak Dravyani. The Dravya is one among the Chikitsa Chatushpada, and definition of Dravya to start with. What are all the important four aspects which make the Dravya best suitable for treatment? So the four are Bahukalpam, Bahugunam, Sampannam, Yogyam Aushadam. That has to be written. And then what are all the entities which are responsible for Kshaya Vriddhi of doshas when administered with Dravya? So Dravya Rasa Guna Veera Vipaka Nimitte Chakshaya Vriddhi Doshanam, that has to be written. And finally, you need to give a very nice conclusion. What is the importance of knowing the Aushadhatva of Dravyas? So there you need to conclude it with a very nice punching conclusion saying Yogadapi Visham Tikshnam Uttamam Bheshajam Bhavet. Bheshajam Chapi Duryuktam Tikshnam Sampadyate Visham. I hope all of you know the meaning of this. So a proper processing or proper formulating the Dravya is very important to achieve great results. Sometimes even a poison can become a great medicine if properly processed. But what happens if we do not process properly or administer properly the normal Dravya? It can result to be very fatal or toxic, right? So that is how. So Aushadhatva, Panchabhautika can be combined or separately asked, because this specific topic is mainly asked in 5 marks questions. Okay, you will get two important 5 marks question from this. Then again, another very challenging, as I told you in the starting itself, classification of Dravya based on Utpatti Bheda. So that may also be asked Yoni Bhedena or Prabhava Bhedena, Prayoga Bhedena. So here students tend to get confused a lot, because when asked about Utpatti Bhedena, they tend to write something else. So what exactly? So this is a question. We would ask you, explain about Utpatti Bhedena Vargikarana of Dravya. How would you start? Always start with definition and one line introduction. That is more than enough for 5 marks. And then proceed with these Parthiva, Jaliya, Taijasa, all these. And then here, this is a point where MCQs may be asked. For example, in this context, wherein you have Parthiva Dravya, Indriyartha is Gandha, Rasa, Madhura, Ishan. Here in Gunas, you find many similar or the same Gunas for different Mahabhuta Dravyas. For example, in Parthiva Dravya also you find the Guna Sandra, whereas in Apya Dravya also you find the Guna Sandra. So how you need to understand this, or how an examiner or the question paper setter would think here is, Sandra is a Guna of dash Dravya, Parthiva Apya or Parthiva Taijasa. That may be asked, or it can be like Parthiva and Apya Dravyas have common gunas like Sandra, Guru, or whatever. So Sandra is also there, Guru is also there. Like this, there might be some repetitions of gunas. And one more example is Taijasa Dravya also has Ruksha Guna, whereas Vayavya Dravya also has Ruksha Guna. You find Vishada Guna in Taijasa, Vayavya, as well as Akasha Guna, Akashiya Dravya. You find Sukshma Guna in both Vayavya and Akashiya. You find Khara in both Parthiva and Akashiya. Laghavakara is common in Vayavya as well as Akashiya. So that is how MCQs may be asked. And then another 5 marks question may be Yoni Bhedena Dravya Vargikarana. Here, what is important is examples, because keeping those examples in mind, MCQs may be framed. Okay. Apart from that, if this question is asked for 5 marks, how would you start? Basically, definition, and then what is the purpose of yoni bhedena vargikarana. Then udvidya prithvim jayate iti audbhidam. Generally students tend to get confused with this, so this part is very important. Vanaspati, vanaspatya, virudha, and then oshada. So these have to be kept in mind. Like for example, what is this? Falaihi vanaspati riti vina pushpaihi. So this particular context, there may be confusions. Like vata is an example for vanaspati dravya, vanaspatya, like that it may be asked. Or very good example for vanaspatya, they may ask. So these are some of the fields where MCQs may be asked. Please try to understand this in a very proper way. And also outbida gana, there are 18 sources of outbida. So you can just think of moolatva, sara, all these. Here you get one scope for MCQs. Like for example, shunga means actually terminal bud, whereas shrunga means horns. So shunga comes in outbida, shrunga comes in jangama. So there you may be asked about, I mean, MCQ ge ilvondu there is one scope. And also this kshira, latex is also kshira, and milk is also kshira. So it is outbida as well as jangama, there you need to differentiate. And then I hope all of you know regarding Jarayuja, Andaja, Svedaja, Udbija. So please try to remember the examples. Indragopaka, Manduka, all these are examples of dash type of dravya. They may confuse you by asking Jarayuja, Andaja, Svedaja, Udbija. I hope Udbija is different from Audbidha. Please remember this. And then one more scope for 5 marks question is Prayoga Bhedena Dravya Vargikarana. Specifically, they will ask, explain about Prayoga Bhedena Dravya Vargikarana. So here again, examples are very important. And then Prabhava Bhedena Dravya Vargikarana. So Prayoga Bhedena and Prabhava Bhedena, they may be asked separately or together. Please don't get confused. Prabhava Bhedena, you must think of किंचित दोष प्रशमनम, किंचित धातु प्रदूषणम, स्वस्थ वृत्तकरम. So like that you need to understand this, and examples also are very important in this context. Here you please try to know these. Like for example, Raktashali, okay, Swasthahita Dravyas. In the context of Swasthahita Dravyas, which are all the drugs that are used, that needs to be understood here. So this is the scope. And then one more is Rasa Skandha. So this, it's quite difficult to remember all the shlokas, but you just basically know which skandha has not been told. Okay, there are only 5 skandhas. Not all 6 rasas are considered here. The 5 skandhas may be Madhura, Amla. Sorry, basis of rasa it comes, but skandhadalli lavana illa. So lavana is one which is exception in this. That needs to be remembered. And then you have desirable to know. Sometimes this is very important for sake of Viva. Okay, how many vargas or ganas have been told according to Sushruta? It is 37. Please remember this. You may be asked in Viva to recall any 5 ganas, only the names. It is very difficult to remember all the drugs, but still, if you have interest, definitely you can do that. See, nothing is stopping you from procuring knowledge, right? Exam shouldn't be a barrier for you not to study different things. There may be question like, if at all examiners want to keep it very tough, there may be like Tamra, Rajata have been described or discussed in dash gana Sushruta. So since it is desirable to know, it is good that you know. Okay. Then classification in Ashtanga Hridaya. Again, you have similar ganas here. So just try to know the number, and if possible, go through all these once you have finished revising all other. Okay, so please go through. See, for MCQs, you need to refer multiple textbooks. Okay, so we have so many textbooks, entrance based questions, so those have to be referred. We also have our own Dr. Prakash L. Hegde's textbook. That also consists of lots of MCQs. And also, please refer many other books also, like Prabhakar Rao, Praveen Kumar Chaudhary, Nagaraju Sumana. There are many multiple books available in the market. Please go through, because it might be helpful for you even for cracking other important examinations later. And next, that is chapter 3 is Guna Vijnana. This is a very, 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 very important chapter, because you will definitely get 10 marks question from this, one 10 marks question and one MCQ. So 10 marks question, as you can expect, what may be the 10 marks question? Guna, explain guna or define guna, write guna sankhya, and then talk about Gurvadi gunas or Paradi gunas. So those are very important fields for 10 marks question. You need to know the entire thing in detail, because lot of applicability in practice can be seen. When asked about Sharirika gunas, you need to write Gurvadi gunas. When asked about Chikitsa Upayogi gunas, you need to write about Paradi gunas. Though both are applicable in Chikitsa, mostly it is Paradi gunas which is applicable for Chikitsa Upayogi gunas. So this is a very important chapter. Each and every word in this chapter should be known. So how would you start? Even though it is asked like explain about Gurvadi gunas for 10 marks, you need to start with a very nice introduction. Samavaitu nishcheshtaha karanam gunaha. Then dravyam gunakarmashreya gunastu gunakarmanashreya. That has to be written. And then Vishwalakshanaha gunaha. As I told you, this is a very important chota definition given by Badanta Nagarjuna. So this is quite important. Guna Sankhya, again, this is here we have scope for MCQs again. So it may be asked as, according to Yogendranath Sen, dash is the 42nd guna, or Yogendranath Sen Acharya, he has included which. So that has to be known here. And the number in general is 41. So you know, Sartha Gurvadayo Buddhih Prayatnantah Paradayah Gunah Prokta. So that has to be remembered. And then classification of guna, I hope students are very much clear regarding this, because they have already studied this in first year in Padartha Vijnana, and second year it is a repetition, and that also you would have learned in detail during your term 1. Then Adhyatmika gunas, you just need to enumerate Vishesha gunas and their applicability. Most importantly, this is the era of research. So everything needs proper testing. So every padartha here, what we study about, practical applications and research updates of every padartha has to be learned. So all research works regarding gunas, you need to know basically applicability of Gurvadi gunas in clinical practice, research updates on Paradi gunas. This is a very important field that it was not there previously so much, but in the present NCISM syllabus, lot of importance is given for research. So please, all of you, learn about research updates of each and every topic. Okay. Then Gurvadi gunas, if asked for 10 marks, what would you write? First thing is, if all the Gurvadi gunas are asked, then you can't waste lot of time writing everything in the form of paragraph, drawing lines and all those. So it's better if you can adopt tabular forms. Okay. But for writing tabular forms, you need to be very well thorough in the particular topic. So Gurvadi gunas, in a very small paragraph, you can start define guna, only one definition, one line, and then write about which are all the Gurvadi gunas that are accepted by Charaka and Vagbhata. So Gurur Manda Himasnigdas Lakshana Sandra. So that has to be written, and in a very short paragraph, you can write about which are all the gunas that are omitted by Sushruta, which are all the newer gunas that are added by Sushrutacharya. So that can be included here. That carries definitely more weightage for your answer. And apart from that, what are all the differences? Like, for example, Slakshna Khara is told by Charaka and Vagbhata, but Sushruta has said Slakshna Karkasha. So those simple ones you need to pay more attention. And tabular form, as I told you, would be very good. So in tabular form, what has to be written? First write the yasya dravyasya brahmane karmani shakti is guru, and correspondingly yasya dravyasya langhane karmani shakti is laghu. So that should come in one line. Second line, whatever you have understood about guru, laghu, simple English. And most important definition, sadopalepa balakrit, gurustarpana brahmanaha, Sushruta Sutra 46, lagustad viparita syat, visheshat ropanasthatha. So that has to be learned. Then please do not forget to write the example. The example should be classical ones only, not whatever we think. Like Pishtana, you can't write for Guru. So whatever has been told for Guru, Masha, Aragvadha, Shatavari, please try to remember that. Because if you stick to classical references, the weightage of your answer will be good. And apart from that, lastly, clinical application. Same, you can put two lines and continue with other gunas. Okay, so this is quite important and we can finish it very fast if this method is adopted. Right. Then finally, we can end this answer by quoting one or two research updates regarding Guruvadi Gunas and clinical applicability. So, as far as possible, all of us, I mean, all of you have been reading about Guruvadi Gunas from so many days. Like, for example, in term one, in detail, you would have studied, and in the entire second term, applicability of these Guruvadi Gunas in drugs and in clinical aspects you would have studied. So please, with the proper understanding, give a nice conclusion how it is applied. A very simple conclusion is also okay. Right. Next, Paradigunas. Yes, 10 marks question. Scope for 10 marks again here, because four chapters are assigned, designated for 10 marks question. Among that, one is Guna, one is Rasa, one is Karma, and another is Pharmacology. So you need to be very thorough with all these four chapters. So Guna, you can expect Guruvadi, Paradi, or sometimes, very rarely, you may get applicability of Adhyatma Gunas or Vishesha Gunas into clinical practice. Yes, that also can be written, but always start with a very good definition and a nice conclusion. Coming to Paradi Gunas. So again, since this is the repetition, Paraparatve Yuktischa, Sankhya Samyoga Evacha, Vibhagancha Pratakvancha, Parimanamata. So that has to be written, and try to explain Paratva, Aparatva in a very neat tabular column. As you know, Paratvam, Pradhanatvam, Aparatvam, Apradhanatvam, which are all the different areas that has to be taken. Deshakala Vayomana Pakavirya Rasadishu. So you have to write, make tabular columns and compare. And then finally, Para includes factors which are conducive for swasthya, whereas Apara are non-conducive or they can become nidana for various disorders. With that, you can end that subtopic. Coming to Yukti, Yuktischa Yojana Yatu Yujyate, and also it is nothing but logical reasoning. See, filling the paper only with shlokas is also quite difficult. Filling the papers only with English terminologies, not using any Sanskrit terminologies, is also that doesn't give a good impression regarding your paper. So always remember there should be combination, especially if you learn shlokas and write important shlokas with little bit of explanation, that gives a lot of weightage. Especially if you learn the entire big shlokas, it should be so much inculcate you must shloka such that auto modally kuda you need to write those shlokas. It is quite easy if you just revise. Okay, one time you invest this small time in learning, you will remember it for your lifetime. Okay, then not only learning shlokas, applicability is also very important. Some people learn shlokas with lots and lots of mistake, but finally applicability is only not there. That is also not what is preferred. So both should be there, learning shlokas and its applicability, right? Why yukti is important? So considering dosha, dushya, bala, kala, desha, vayomana, all these, considering all these, we need to do the choice of drug. So that is very important, clinical applicability. Then Bheshajasya Samichina Kalpana, and then whatever we said in the beginning, Yoga the Pivisham Tikshnam Uttamam Bheshajam Bhave. So that has to be written in the Chota conclusion. Sankhya syat ganitam. Yes, you can start with this if you are very much perfect regarding this. Definitely, you can start with this samyoga. Here, at least ಒಂಥರ ಫ್ಲೋ ಚಾರ್ಟ್ ತರ ಆದ್ರೂ you please write the different types eka karmaja, dvandva karmaja and sarva karmaja. Write very short note about each and practical utility. Rather than writing crow sitting on a wire, you can write either ekamulika prayoga or in the lepa, shunti lepa, that you apply over the knee where only shunti is acting. So that clinical applicability will get more weightage. Okay, so in this part especially. And then coming to vibhaga, you know what is vibhaga? So vibhakti yogo yogasho graha. Again, these you need to write with the very small chota definitions and pritakva also. So always restrict yourself while for example, if you are writing this vibhaga, please do not explain it so much that you won't have time to explain pritakva. Be very careful in designing your answer. That is very important. Vailakshanyam anekata. So you know that pritakva is asamyoga vailakshanyam anekata. So 1 2 3, one next to the other you write. You can draw some lines and there itself you write the applicability. That is more than enough. Parimana. So again this. So conclude this with a very nice sentence, like how this paradigunas are applicable in giving the treatment. So that is very important. As I have told you, please include some research work again. So as I have told you, in this chapter you may expect one MCQ. Please read through this in detail. Then soon after guna, it is virya. That is very important to know, because both are almost interrelated. From virya chapter you can expect one 5 marks question and one MCQ. That's it. So yena kurvanti tad viryam, please try to know the definition. Viryam tu kriyate yena ya kriya, na viryam kurte kinchit sarva virya krita kriya. This is also important. So here we need to understand the correlations of virya. So what is virya? Virya is the ability or the entity that is responsible for doing work, right? So it is only with virya that the work is done. So that is one thing. Second thing, virya can also refer to shelf life. According to some authors, virya refers to active constituents. According to some, they say active principle itself is not virya, that is virya adhisthana. You can just give a short introduction to this and go on deliberations, right? The viryam iti shaktihi yena iti rasena va vipakena va. So you start with the vadas, what Acharya Charaka has told regarding virya. So he is considered as shakti matra viryavadi. So for example, in a dravya, the most important and the strongest entity which is responsible for karma is considered as virya, right? So why some of the gunas are considered as virya? Not all. If at all you think of this, there are 4 important reasons which you need to remember very importantly, like samagra gunasareshu shaktutkarshatvat, then vyavahara mukhyatvat and bahu agra grahana. These 4 important points to be kept in mind, memorized if possible. These 8 gunas only are considered as virya. That is because they are not changing. They are not very much what to say. Even though they are subjected to Jatharagni, they are strong enough to continue with their own qualities. That is why these are considered as virya. So in support to this, there are these 4 points which we need to remember. So, and also virya as active constituents, you know, the constituents, alkaloids, glycosides, oils, all these. So for a 5 marks question, you can design in such a way that all these points are also included at the same time. You are not missing out any point, right? So alkaloids, and you just write one line regarding everything. And views of various acharyas regarding virya. Like for example, Ashtavida Viryavada, Dvivida Viryavada. You can be asked to compare or differentiate between Ashtavida Viryavada, Dvivida Viryavada. You know the similarities as well as the differences. That is very important here. And then, of course, Virya Karmani, which is again the what to say, the further continuation of gunas, that has to be kept in mind, that has to be written. And also clinical applicability of virya, right? And research updates. So here you have exothermic and endothermic reaction, which is going to give us a proper insight into what is virya. That should be considered. That there is a experiment that is considered for explaining the concept of virya. Please read that experiment and write it within one or two lines, one or two sentences. You just try to condense it. So explain what is exothermic and endothermic, which is considered as shitavirya, which is ushnavirya. If there is at the end of second minute, fifth minute, 15th minute, when you are mixing the specific drug with distilled water, how is the temperature at the end of second, fifth, or 15th minute? That has to be considered to say whether the reaction is exothermic or endothermic. This will form a very nice practical applicability as well as research update regarding virya and upalabdhi of virya. So, very importantly, if virya is asked for 5 marks, in general, write the definition, write the views of various authors. Here, when in general, if it is asked, to do not in a detailed form write about Dvivida Ashtavida. Only specifically asked, you write Ashtavidha Viryavada, Dvivida Viryavada. Or sometimes Ashtavidha Viryavada can only be asked for 5 marks. So this is quite a very simple chapter. You may also be asked to differentiate between guna and virya. So the 4 important factors have to be considered. Then coming to the chapter on rasa. So again, this is an extremely important chapter because 10 marks question will be asked from this chapter. So also one MCQ. MCQ, if you are able to answer, that shows the depth of knowledge, that shows that you have given maximum importance to even the minutest details. So that is what is assessed with MCQs. Be thorough in reading, right? So from rasa you may expect 10 marks question. See, you can be asked, explain about shad rasa, gunas, karmas, atiyogajanya vikaras. If asked like this, please restrict yourself to only those. In the form of a table, write a good introduction and a good conclusion. Do not miss any point. That is one. You may be asked like, write a note on or explain about madhura rasa. So you need to write about guna, karma, atiyogajanya vikaras, or clinical applicability of madhura rasa. These 4 important points to be considered for answering this question. So any rasa may be asked for 10 marks, or combination of 2 rasas may be asked, or if generally shad rasas, if it is asked, please stick yourself to tabular form, right? And then importantly, you need to first describe what is rasa. Rasa as dhatu, as parada, do not go in much detail. You please concentrate more on rasa as indriyartha, rasyate asvadyate, and then rasanendriya grahyatvat, and then rasanendriya grahyo yo arthaha sarasaha, rasa lakshana. And then please, if a general question is asked about rasa, also write the panchabhautika composition. Like, how do you assess the panchabhautic composition of a dravya? It is through rasa. So that has to be kept in mind. Rasanam panchabhautikatvam may also be asked along with differentiate between rasa and anurasa in 5 marks. There may be combination of 2 topics in 10 marks, each for 5 marks. MCQs would be like, specifically they may ask paritosham utpadayati, prahaladayati, tarpayati. These are the actions that are found for dash rasa. Swayam arochisnuhu but arochakagnaha. This is the action of dash rasa. or dantaharsham utpadayati mukhasravam janayati is the action of dash rasa. Or it may be asked like katurasa lakshana, like jihwagram badhate, or bhakta ruchim utpad, like that. Combinations can be asked. And also Vaktram parishoshayati jihvam sthambayati kantam badhnati. So this also may be asked as an MCQ. Specifically the lakshanas, especially from Sushruta Sutra 42, whatever reference you find, those are quite important and easy to remember also. Please go through this. Also remember the classical examples for all these. Ati sevana janya vikaras are very important. And also taratamatva of rasa, relative superiority, that is rasa dosha sambandha, rasa and guna sambandha, that has to be um, looked into. Also rasa prayoga krama in ahara, rasa prayoga krama in aushada, these also may be asked as a sub question in the main question itself. Okay, so order of rasa in case of kapha vyadi, in case of pitta vyadi, in case of vata vyadi, what is the order you need to remember? And rasa prayoga krama of in ahara. For this, you need to remember two very important views of two acharyas. One is Sushruta's view, wherein he says, Purvam madhuram ashniyat madhye amla lavanavraso, paschat sheshan rasan vaidyo bhojaneshu avacharayet. This is very important. And also the reasoning, Dalhana Tika, for this you need to remember, because Rasa Prayoga Krama in Ahara is one important sub question that you can expect. And also another view from Bhava Prakasha, you can expect this. Lavanamla, you need to understand this. Lavanamla Katushnani Vidahinyanti Yanitu Tad Dosham Hartum Aharam Madhurena Samapayat. So first we said Purvam Madhuram Ashniyat in Sushruta's view. And in Bhavamishra's view, we said Madhurena Samapayet. So both are acceptable but in different conditions. Also, you should not forget Bhojanagre Sadapatyam Lavanardhraka Bhakshanam. So please remember all these four shlokas or all the concepts in a proper manner. And then again, practical utility, research updates, and clinical applicability of these should also be learned. Rasa Anurasa Bheda can also be a sub question. So, Rasa chapter is very important for 10 marks. Ajanma Satmya Rasa is said to be Madhur Rasa. Like this chota mota small lakshanas correlating, and then Atisevana Janya Vikaras can also be asked as a part of MCQs. So this is regarding Rasa chapter. So I think we are running short of time. If possible, I'll just address you once again. But coming to the studies, as you said, or as you think, it is definitely difficult, but it is not impossible, because what you put in is what you get out. What goes around comes around. Please look at this. The more you sweat in practice, the less you bleed in battle. So it is your utmost duty to sit and study. That is the only thing that is expected out of you. Please learn properly at this stage so that you don't repent in future days. That is what I wanted to tell you. And also look at this. As I have told you in the beginning, please embrace the subject with lot of love, so that the subject will embrace you back with knowledge. That is extremely important for each one of us. So learning is a constant process, very much needed at every point of time. So at this point of time in student life, maximum time should be spent in learning. So what do you remember by looking at this? Here is a donkey, right? So carrying some logs of wood. If you remember a reference from Sushruta Samhita, Yatha Kharash Chandana Bharavahi Bharasya Veta Natu Chandanasya Tatha hi Shastrani Bahuni Adhitya Artheshu Mudaha Kharavad Vahanti. So a donkey which is lifting the logs of Chandana, that is sandalwood, doesn't know the importance of sandalwood. It just knows that its owner has put all these on its back and it has to carry. It only knows the weight. So if we try to sit sit and study, ಕನ್ಸಿಡರಿಂಗ್ ತುಂಬ ಕಷ್ಟಪಟ್ಟು ಓದೋದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಇಫ್ ಯು ರಿಯಲಿ ಲವ್ ದ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್, ಇಷ್ಟಪಟ್ಟು ಓದಿದ್ರೆ ಡೆಫಿನೆಟ್ಲಿ ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಸಕ್ಸೀಡ್ in every aspect. So it should become a habit. It should not be like this is the job, I have to finish. Learning is a constant process. Aham prakriyasmi. You must please remember this. Okay. So what goes around comes back around. So without having lot of stress, because definitely there is a lot of time for you to study again. Those who are writing exam now, for them also you definitely have ample of time. And for those who are still in first term, mugdo even just second term enter, definitely you have lot of time to study. But please make yourself free for studying, develop that interest. Definitely embrace the subject with love. The subject will embrace you back with knowledge. That is what I would like to say. With lot of interest, if you do a difficult task, that becomes easier and most lovable job, right? So definitely, if I get an opportunity, I would love to talk to you or address you all once more, because I was not able to complete because of lack of time. So wishing you all the best, study well, good night.
The session was very clear and informative. Thank you very much, ma'am, for guiding the students about question patterns and effective answering strategies. And ma'am has really boosted the confidence of the students to approach the examinations. So, if any further doubts, we'll be reaching out to you, ma'am.
Yes, definitely.
Mm.
I
Thank you.
hope this
Thank you so
session
much for your
was
time, ma'am.
of I hope this session was of a little use to some of the students. I would be happy, and I also thank Panchajanya, this organization, for giving me an opportunity to address so many students at a time. Thank you so much. Any doubts, please contact us. Thank you. Namaste.